Chapter 1: Unexpected Turns on the Donetsk Battlefield. On August 16, the skies over eastern Ukraine were no longer as calm as usual. Instead of church bells ringing in small villages, residents of the Donetsk and Pokrovsk regions heard only the roar of artillery, rockets, and drones. Kiev had just declared a major victory, recapturing 7 settlements in just a few days of fierce counterattacks. At first glance, this number may seem modest. 7 settlements sounds like a few small villages. But in the context of the war that has lasted for more than 3 years, every inch of land is stained with blood. The fact that Ukraine can consecutively recapture many control points has an extremely great significance. It is like a chess player who seems to be about to be checkmated suddenly makes a move that forces his opponent to retreat a few steps. 1. Why did Kiev counterattack at this time? The first question many people ask is, why did Ukraine choose mid-August to counterattack? There are 3 main reasons. 1. Favorable weather. The Eastern European summer is when the ground is dry, tanks and armored vehicles can maneuver easily. If left until autumn, the mud of Donbass will turn any campaign into a nightmare. Soldiers will get stuck, vehicles will get stuck, and artillery will be difficult to pull. International pressure. The West, especially the US and the European Union, constantly urges Kiev to prove that military aid is not wasted. A victory, however small, will be a living proof to keep the flow of weapons and money. Domestic morale. After months of continuous Russian attacks in the direction of Pokrovsk and Chasiv Yar, the mentality of the Ukrainian people is somewhat heavy. A victory on the battlefield will be like a spiritual medicine to help them believe that the sacrifices were not in vain. An easy-to-understand example. Like a football team that was 2-0 down during the first half, suddenly scored 2 goals in a row in the second half. Even though it was not certain to win the match, the audience would explode with belief that we still have a chance. 2. How did Russia react? Of course, Moscow did not sit still. The Russian Ministry of Defense declared that Ukraine's counterattacks were insignificant, that Russian forces are controlling the situation. This is a familiar statement, both to reassure domestic public opinion and to send a message that the Donetsk battlefield is still within Russia's reach. But if you look closely at the map, Ukraine's recapturing of 7 settlements has cut into the important supply line that Russia uses to approach Pokrovsk. This forced Moscow to either retreat to a more solid defense or send more elite forces to retake it. 3. The strategic significance of the 7 settlements. Someone asked, just a few small villages, what's the fuss about? Answer, on the battlefield, a village is sometimes as important as a large city. It can be a high observation point, allowing precise artillery adjustment. It can be located at a crossroads, cutting off the enemy's logistics line. It can be a spiritual symbol because that place has changed hands many times. For example, during World War II, the village of Stalingrad, which was just an ordinary industrial city, became a turning point that decided the fate of the entire Eastern Front. In war, sometimes small places create great victories. 4. Humor amidst the fire. It sounds like all blood and tears, but on the battlefield in Ukraine, there were also many tragic comic situations. Some soldiers recounted that while entering an abandoned village, they discovered a herd of cows occupying the checkpoint. The soldiers had to spend an hour negotiating to move the cows elsewhere. Finally, the victory of taking back the settlement was associated with the scene of soldiers laughing because the cows refused to give way. This shows that, despite the fierce war, people still find a way to laugh, just like the Vietnamese people in the past during the Resistance War. Amidst bombs and bullets, they still sang Cheo and Kwan Ho to keep their spirits up. 5. Message from Pokrovsk. Pokrovsk is currently the focus. Ukraine understands that if they can hold on to this area, they can prevent Russia from advancing deep into Donetsk. On the contrary, if Russia takes Pokrovsk, the road to Dnipro and even Kiev will be wide open. Therefore, the battle around Pokrovsk is not simply a matter of taking land, but also a matter of keeping hope.
The people here said that every day they pray for the war to end soon, but they do not forget to hang the Ukrainian flag in their windows as an affirmation that we are still standing. Chapter 2. Kiev's counterattack and the change in the situation at Pokrovsk. If in Chapter 1 we saw the overall picture of Ukraine's counterattack on August 16, then in Chapter 2, I will take you into every detail, every stab of Kiev to shake the situation that Russia has hard work to build around Pokrovsk and the Donetsk region. This is like a chess game where one side wants to suddenly sacrifice a piece to create a breakthrough, while the other side has to strain their brains to maintain a tight defense, not allowing any mistakes. 1. 7 settlements. Small grains of sand, but of great value. When hearing that Ukraine has recaptured 7 settlements, many people will think, oh, it's just a few tiny villages. What's so great about it? But in war, sometimes the value of a settlement lies not in its population, but in its strategic location. For example, one of the villages that Ukraine recaptured was located on a natural height, overlooking the main supply route from Donetsk to Pokrovsk. Imagine someone climbing onto the roof of a neighbor's house and using binoculars to observe every movement in the yard. The neighbor in the yard would certainly not sleep well, even if the house had a high solid wall. In addition, some of these settlements are located close to important roads and railways. If Ukraine held on, it could cut off Russia's supply lines, forcing the enemy to take a long detour, wasting time and fuel. In modern warfare, delayed logistics can sometimes be more dangerous than direct shelling. 2. Speed. Kiev's most dangerous weapon. The August 16 counteroffensive was called a speed strike by many observers. Ukraine did not send all its troops at once, but instead divided them into small groups, attacking quickly, making Russia confused in determining which direction was the main one and which was a diversion. A specific example. In the southwest of Pokrovsk, the Ukrainian forces used only one mechanized company, about 100 to 120 soldiers with armored vehicles, to suddenly rush in, quickly occupy a village, and then retreat before Russia could mobilize its troops. It sounds like a game of riding a horse to see flowers, but in fact, it was a way to stretch the Russian forces, forcing the enemy to move continuously, wasting energy and ammunition. The Russians are famous for being stubborn on the battlefield, but even they have to admit that fighting a fast-moving opponent like Ukraine now is like catching a mouse in a dark house. Just running after this mouse, you hear a noise in another corner. 3. Russia's response. Tense. Faced with these counterattacks, Russia reacted pretty fiercely. They immediately sent more artillery and tactical air units to stop Ukraine's advance. On military social networks, many videos appeared showing fierce artillery attacks taking place near Pokrovsk, with black smoke rising tens of meters high. However, the problem is, Russia seems to be stretched out on too wide a front. When Ukraine attacked 7 scattered settlements, Russia was forced to divide its troops. This is like a warehouse keeper with 7 doors. If a thief breaks all 7 doors at the same time, no matter how strong the homeowner is, it will be difficult to completely resist. 4. Mental and visual impact. The mental factor in this counterattack cannot be ignored. Recapturing 7 settlements, no matter how small, also helps raise the morale of the Ukrainian army and the people of Kiev. Soldiers might say, we can not only defend, we can take the land back. In war, belief is sometimes a secret weapon more powerful than tanks. For Russia, on the other hand, the loss of the occupied positions is a blow to its invincible image. While Moscow might claim that the villages are not important, Russians still ask, if they are not important, why did we lose them? Chapter 3. Strategic significance, long-term consequences, and messages to the world. After analyzing the counterattack in detail, in Chapter 3, we will go further. Look at the big picture, draw out the causes, results, significance, and messages that the battle in Pokrovsk sent to the world. 1. Reasons why Kiev dared to counterattack strongly. There are 3 major reasons. 1. Support from the West. Ukraine at this time received more military aid, especially artillery shells and armored vehicles. With more fuel, Kiev will of course boldly attack. 2. Internal situation in Russia. According to many experts, Russian forces around Pokrovsk have been fighting continuously for months. Their morale and physical strength have declined. Kiev clearly understands that the golden time to attack is when the opponent is most tired. 3. Political pressure. Kiev needs to prove to its people and allies that they will not sit idly by and take the hit. The recapturing of 7 settlements is a vivid demonstration that Ukraine still has the ability to turn the tide. 4. Immediate results and long-term consequences. On the short term, Ukraine has gained more land and morale, while Russia has been forced to disperse its forces.